All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Mac Yak. This will be the 12th episode that we have filmed after a 2-week break for Valentine's Day. We are back at yakking, and we got a lot to talk about today. So, we'll try to get through all these topics. I mean, I think this is the most topics we've had since we started. So,
I think so too.
Nice.
So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, guys. A lot of news, probably the last 2 weeks that's come out, stuff like that. So first off, we're going to welcome our newest permanent member, Steve of Mac 84. So welcome to the permanent place on the Mac Yak crew there, Steve.
Well, thank you for having me. You need to really change that intro.
Yes, I need to change the intro now. So, but
we'll
it will get changed.
No worries.
It will get changed.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's fun to be part of the group.
Yeah, you don't have a choice anymore now.
No, you don't.
No kidding.
If I get out, one of my legs will be amputated.
Pretty much.
So, all right. So, yeah, we got Steve in as a permanent member now. And if you notice, there's another guy in here that you probably haven't seen before. He's also in here today. He's our guest today. So let's go ahead and welcome Christian Bergman of the MacintoshGardens.org. Let me get it right there.
Did you say orgy?
No,
that's a different website.
Yeah, that's a different one.
Just say .org.
Or ogre, or whatever you want to call it. So the floor is yours, Christian.
We started talking with Christian in Discord, and we're all familiar with Macintosh Garden. I figured, hey, he needs to be on the show.
Yeah, I've been friends with Christian for about a year now, thanks to YouTube and all that stuff, and he's been talking me into buying really expensive stuff. And thanks, Christian.
I've actually leached a lot of stuff off his site, too, so, yeah.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Thank you.
It's a great resource, and we figured it's so early in the day for him, he won't mind being on the show. So.
Yeah, guys, it's 2 a.m. where he's at right now, so it's way early in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
So, Christian, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thanks.
Give us a little bit of background about Macintosh Garden. Like, how old is it? I don't even know.
Oh, it's from 2001. It's probably still on archive.org. And if you haven't seen it, you probably should look it up. Really fancy.
I'm going to do that right now while you guys talk.
So Christian's he actually talks more to us when we're not broadcasting. So now he's got shy all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I'm still waking up.
Well, what was your inspiration for Macintosh Garden? Let's start with that, maybe.
My inspiration for Macintosh Garden, applications and games, pretty much. And the
games is the main reason why I found your website back in 2015.
Well, I tell you what, the way I found it was basically I was searching for some stuff from my old Macintosh SE30, FDHD 30. So I was looking for some stuff that I could put on there. And that's where I came across his site because it had tons of stuff for the older Macintosh, System 7, System 8, stuff like that. So that's how I came across it. And then I found out, well, hey, they got OS X stuff in here. I mean, all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you started? Was it mainly stuff from your own collection, or have you accumulated a lot of things at that point where you just wanted to host it somewhere?
Oh, wow. The thing is, I'm not the guy who started it. So way back in 2001 somewhere, there was this tiny group of people who started up. I believe they were Swedish as well. So it has changed owners over time. And I'm the latest one.
Okay.
I did not know that. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. We got a question from the audience here for you. He wants an axiomatic raptor.
Nick.
Wants to know, Nick, wants to know how many gigs is MacintoshGarden.org.
I'd pretty much say it's about between 3 and 5 terabytes of data.
Wow.
It's a nice collection.
That's some serious hosting.
Now, the question I got for you, too, is I noticed that it does, when you go to look at a file, it shows that there's the regular download and then a mirror. Can you explain those two to us?
The regular download is basically in the same location as the web server. And the mirror is hosted in a data center in America, graciously provided by Pixel Geek for free. So
Nice.
There's faster downloads for people.
Much faster.
Over the pond.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that after a while because I started downloading from the regular link and I was like, man, this thing is slow. And then I said, let me try the mirror for a change. All of a sudden, boom, it's like done. I'm like, okay, I'll use the mirror every time now. Because normally in the States here, a mirror is overseas for us. Yeah. It's the opposite, you know?
Yeah, so, I've never actually thought about the mirror being in the U.S. I should start using the mirror. That would speed everything up.
Guys, it says www.ftp.se mirror.us. It says it right there.
Yeah, I know.
It does. I just realized that.
But when you see mirror, it usually means, I mean, for us, most of the time, I mean, I guess we're arrogant Americans or something. I don't know. But it usually means it's an overseas mirror because usually that's what happens most of the time. But I think in this case, because of what is hosted on there, it's probably better to have the main host overseas because then you don't have that little touchy U.S. copyright stuff, you know, coming after you.
That doesn't prevent them from sending the cease and desist letters.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Speaking of which, since you said that, have you gotten any cease and desists?
Not as of late. So there was a few from Electronic Arts and some other companies before my time. One of the reasons why Macintosh Garden disappeared from search results on Google. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So they kind of pulled you off of Google then, huh?
It was a decision made by the admins at the time. We even had one of those big music producers come at us regarding System 7.
I remember that. I remember that.
It was banned in the UK or something called System 7, so we couldn't call our downloads or pages System 7, even though it was totally unrelated.
Wow.
Really? Wow. That doesn't make any sense.
So that's why it's called Mac OS 7 instead.
Okay.
And how many people you got working total to upkeep the sites, scan all the downloads and all that stuff?
We're about 8 people.
Oh, all right.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, really good people.
I actually have a new game I'm going to upload to it probably in the next few days. I just finished ripping it. Don't see it on there. Should be interesting.
There you go. Now, the question I have with you is how much data is downloaded usually daily? What's the average amount of data usually?
Good question. I don't even know that.
Sorry, I put you on the spot, but yeah.
One of the reasons for that is because tracking our users and what they're doing is not a thing we're doing. So we just have basic logging in case of PHP errors, file system errors. That's about it.
Oh, okay.
So there's no tracking of users. There's no forced anything. So,
and I think a lot of people would appreciate that. So that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good. I mean,
is there anything that you personally or anybody in your group are still looking for? I mean, you could sort of use this as a platform if there's a particular game or something that's not been archived that you're maybe hunting for?
We have pages with stuff we want, stuff we're looking for, some really, really rare stuff.
Oh, great.
I think we even have a wanted list somewhere.
Oh, okay. So if I'll try and put the link in the chat there, and if anybody watching this has anything on that list, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta
definitely.
find it first. I don't see a wanted list.
It's probably on the main page.
No.
It's spread across some game pages, and we have that one.
Yep. All right, guys, any questions for Christian? Because he may decide to drop out of here. He might fall asleep on us here.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
I have one. Is there anything currently in the works that is coming soon that we should get excited about?
Coming soon, trademark. Total rebuild of the Macintosh garden. That's what I'm doing.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So it's not really a small project, and it has been in the works for a year and a half. So it's being worked on and off on my free hours, which aren't many.
And without giving too much away, I guess what are some of the things you hope to achieve with that?
Basically, users with 68K max, all the way back to, say, the 80s, running System 6 or 7, should be able to render the page flawlessly.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man.
That would be really cool.
The basic templates, as they are now, you can render it fine in Netscape 304 or just Netscape 3. So that's something nice
Sweet.
to look forward to.
Yeah.
Is part of the reason you may have issues with Google is because you do not offer HTTPS? I know that Google demotes people for that now.
Well, I have no idea about Google. I mean, we recently resubmitted everything, and we had Google IPs banned, so they couldn't crawl the site even if they tried. But it's getting back there slowly, and we'll have to re-index once the new site is up and running.
Cool.
Okay, Christian, here's the question I think we were avoiding a little bit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely.
Here's the question that Daniel has. He goes, how's the relationship with Macintosh repository?
Let me get my popcorn. Hold on.
Well, Macintosh repository. We don't talk to them and they don't talk to us, so we're keeping it like that. Pretty much. No relation.
Okay.
Well, you could tell us the whole story. I mean, that's what people want to know, what happened between the two, or,
Without getting into too much details, disgruntled user pops off, basically scrapes the entire website, screenshots, descriptions, and the files. So, and just puts his own site up. That's fine. I mean, yay, another mirror. So even if Macintosh Garden disappears, all the files are somewhere else. That's fine. The thing is, with the screenshots and the descriptions, it's like people who put down quite a lot of time with testing, writing a review, only have to have it ripped off and put it up on some other site, and basically claiming it's their own. That's the biggest issue people are having.
Yeah, it's a pretty big
and I can
issue.
understand them.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, and to be honest, they do a pretty poor job in some areas. I foolishly went to one of their pages and thought, well, I thought I saw this on Macintosh Garden and went there. And of course, Macintosh Garden has all the descriptions, all the comments, all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the repository just had a screenshot and like 10 different download links without any description of which one was what or why they were 10 and everything. So
Yeah.
I still prefer the Garden.
Yeah, that's the
I
reason
agree.
why I don't mess with repository either, because I tried it one time and I was like, this is a pain in the butt to use. So I went back to Macintosh Garden. I'll never, ever touch that other site again.
Yeah, it's very ad heavy too, and it just bogs down my system whenever I go there. So
During Christmas, actually, my Power Mac was overheating from Macintosh repository, just from checking out what's going on over there. So fans were spinning up and applications were crashing.
wow.
Went back to Macintosh
need a
Garden
faster
and the
Mac.
fans just cooled down.
Good decision.
Good decision. Yep. Anything else, Christian, before we move on to our next topic?
Well, unless there's any more questions.
Nobody's actually asked anything. I think that was the main question right there, was the fact that the repository.
I am curious about the redesign, because when I was looking you up on the Wayback Machine, it only goes back to 2009. The site looks identical then as it does now.
Oh, you have to visit the one. I think it's from Home of the Underdogs. I'll see if you can find it.
Yeah, I think Dan.
Yeah, Dan was asking about that.
Yeah. Where was that?
That is one loud ass keyboard.
It's a nice keyboard.
It's probably one of those.
Mike is here. Hey, Mike.
Hey,
I don't see him. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Mike's been here.
I don't see him on my iPad here, so. But he's on my screen on the Mac, so.
He's quietly hiding in the bottom row.
It keeps zooming into his face on the stream. It's hilarious.
Sybil Jewel says, hi, Jay.
Where? Oh, there. Hi, Sybil.
Okay,
We'll find the link for the Wayback Machine later, so you can go all the way back to day one.
I think I found it.
Uh-oh.
And there we go. Have fun with that.
Where'd you put it?
You put it on the
On
chat.
the YouTube channel.
Okay, there it is. See? Fog Wraith, see?
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to paste it.
I want to check that out real quick. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. I actually kind of like that. That's cool.
That is dope. I like it.
All right.
I'm going to
All
ask
right, guys.
about that later.
Yeah, we will. Take some screenshots and stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right, Christian, you're welcome to stay if you want. We've got a bunch more topics to go through here.
Since I've just woken up, that's fine. I'll stick around for a bit.
Oh, his part is done, and now he wakes up. It's great.
Yeah.
feel free to go to sleep again if we bore you.
All right, here's our next topic here. Mac or something else? What do Mac Yakkers use at home or at work? I'll start it off with pretty much I have nothing but Macs. I have one PC. Yeah, one that stays turned off pretty much all the time. I don't ever hardly use it. It's like a test machine for other stuff. But I use a 2017 iMac as my main machine. I have a 2012 iMac sitting right next to it. In the back, I have a G5, a Power Mac G5. I have a iMac G4, and I have a couple of 2008 MacBooks. And plus, I also have a 1400C PowerBook that I'm looking at probably getting rid of soon, but we'll figure that out. And I have a Performa that somebody's supposed to want to buy, but we won't mention his name here. So let's throw it over to Christian since he's our guest.
Huh? What?
What computers do you use? Do you use Macs or something else?
I use mainly Macs. I have one PC which has Linux now because Windows 10, Microsoft. Thank you very much. Mainly the PowerBook G3 or G4 sees the most use. Mainly because it has everything I need, and it's what I'm using to develop the new Macintosh Garden website. And those machines, Mac OS 9 and Mac OS 8.6.
Yeah.
Unprecedented speed and stability.
Yes.
What? No mention of the almighty Xer?
Totally forgot about that. I can hear it across the room.
It never lets you forget.
No, it heats up my apartment.
Well, you need it in those Swedish winters, right?
It's pretty much over now. So I can go out and mow the lawn if I want to.
We're supposed to get about 12 inches of snow here tonight. So, and that's in Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Before I answer the question, we got Londo's Hair. He says at work he uses a 2012 iMac Core i5. At home, a 5.1 Mac Pro, 2012 Mac Mini, and a 1.1 Mac Pro as a Plex server.
Oh, I forgot to mention I do have a 2017 MacBook Pro as well that I use at work and at home.
And he has a machine that I will not mention as well for gaming.
Well,
yeah.
He's gaming on his iMac.
No. He's talking about Lando's.
Oh.
Lando's? Okay. Where do you see an A in his name? It's Londo's, man.
Yeah, it says Lando's, whatever. Close enough.
For me, it's pretty straightforward because I work from this office as well at home. It's all Mac, not a single PC or Windows, nothing. It's all Mac.
Well, Jay gets physically sick if he actually sees a PC. So
yes, it's kind of like kryptonite. You know, if I come within 5 feet of it, I just turn green and start throwing up, and it's not pretty. But my main machine is a 2012 5.1 Mac Pro. For work, I use I think it's a 2012 Mac Mini that I have all my schematics and all that stuff on, and my primary laptop is a 2009 17-inch MacBook Pro. And those are the machines I use every day. And then there's about 20 that I tinker with on and off. I'm working on a few G4s right now.
Nice.
Well, one's a G3, actually.
Huh?
The iMac, the eMac is a G3, right?
No, that's a G4.
It's a G4?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
Yeah. And it's the first time I had one, so I have had it in my office for a little while to play with it, but it's going back to the basement as soon as I'm done with it to be played with at another time.
We'll wait to Greg for last because we'll be here forever.
Yeah, that's going to be half an hour at least.
Yeah.
Well, no, I could probably cover it in a few minutes if that.
We'll save you for last there. Don't try to cut the line. Steve, what about you?
My main machine is a 2011 27-inch iMac with the build to order or configure to order, whatever it was, CPU upgrade. So it's a little bit of a fast i7, maxed out 32 gigs of RAM. It's my main machine, and I have no issue using it. Has an SSD in there, so it's running pretty well, except it can't run Mojave because the graphics card is not happily supported, even with, Colin's awesome patcher, just, the drivers are not there. But downstairs in the basement, I have a 2008 Mac Pro, and I use that for editing every now and again if, for whatever reason, I need it. I like that all the hard drive bays are accessible and everything. I have a G4 Mac Mini that I use as sort of a bridge machine for Apple Talk and stuff for my old Macs. I have so many old Macs, I'm not even going to mention them, but I have a MacBook Pro 2008 that's pretty much my main laptop, although it's getting a little slow in there. I do have two PCs, and yeah, I know, boo. One I use just for games and some very proprietary software. And I have a PC laptop that I use because it has a Wacom digitizer built into the screen, and so I basically use that as a glorified drawing tablet. So that's pretty much that. Yeah.
All right, and we'll swing over to Mike. He's been very quiet. So, Mike.
I just have I still have my PC in the kitchen. It hasn't been touched in probably 2 months now. My main computer now is a Mac Pro, 2006 Mac Pro 1,1. And now at work, I have a pair of Mac Pro 1,1s. One is a server, and another one is actually my workstation. And unfortunately, I do still have two work PCs down there, but I'm hoping to eliminate those by the end of the year. So I have to keep one PC. I have to keep one PC around simply to program my telephone system at work because there's no Macintosh software available for it. Thank you, Avaya. So, other than that, I can eliminate the PCs totally.
And last but not least, Greg.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Set your timers.
I'm going to take a nap.
Take a nap now.
You're funny. You're funny. Well, at school/work, there's Linux and PC based systems, so I don't, especially with school, I still do need to use PCs, but when it comes to at home, my daily user is my 3,1 Mac Pro because I never finished building up my 4,1. I'm getting there. Stop laughing. And my main laptop currently is the world's fastest 2008 unibody here, because Colin's still making the world's fastest mid 2012 13-inch. So he still got that, so I can't use it, of course. So I've been using anything I need to do, even schoolwork. I just boot this into Boot Camp and run it off of that. And then I do have PCs. I've got like somewhere between 5 and 10. I've lost count because I don't use them very often. I've got a home theater PC, the custom LGA 775 771 modded system my girlfriend uses the game on. Then I've got a gaming PC with dual 970s and a Core what is it? An Extreme Edition 3960X in it, which just sets and collects dust basically because I use my Mac Pros, believe it or not. So and then so those just basically sit the Macs, this MacBook, the Macintosh. The Mac Pro 3,1. And I use the G5 almost daily, sitting next to it, and it's about it. The rest of them are just on rotation as secondary machines. So,
how many Macs do you actually own in your little small space there, Greg?
We're probably
He has no idea.
My lights off. Here, I'm going to set the lights off to the side. In this room alone, that's probably about 55, 60.
That's the reason why we wanted to wait till last for Greg.
I wasn't going to talk about each and every single one of them.
Yeah.
But we can't take that risk, you see.
If your house burned down, man, you'd have a hard time getting all those things out.
They just burn.
Contingency.
I should probably insure it all.
And you cry.
Front yard full of Macs. He's like, I'm forgetting something. Oh crap! Where's my gopher?
Yeah, you'd be crying if all those burnt up. I know I would. I would love to film that.
I would be.
Oh, jeez. That's terrible.
I am terrible, but hey, got to make it fun there. All right, guys. Let's go on to our next topic here. Mac in movies and TV shows. How often do they get tech right in Hollywood? Everyone's probably seen Independence Day, where Jeff Goldblum uses a Power Mac PC PowerBook with a phone strapped to the back of it, and showing the countdown timer and stuff like that. And then he also uploads the virus, to the mothership, I guess, through it.
Yeah,
So,
that's the stupidest thing on earth to even
well,
consider
stupidest
that.
thing.
Stupid
Jeff
enough to
Goldblum
work.
would not lie to you.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum he doesn't lie to you. He knows how to use a Mac.
It's true. That's why he did all the
Yep.
G3 iMac commercials.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the voiceover for all their commercials for some point in time, but that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Till he made the fly, So, question for you guys in the audience here is, can you think of any movies or something that's had Macs? I know there's a lot of TV shows that have Macs, and when you
Tons
see
of TV
them,
shows.
yeah, tons of TV shows. When you see them, though, you usually see a sticker right where the Apple symbol is. Okay. And I can tell you one of the biggest reasons for that. Okay, a lot of people wonder why they keep covering that up. They think that's free advertising for Apple. The problem is that, guess what? The TV shows do not show anything unless you pay them to show it. So they cover up all the symbols, even though pretty much everybody knows that's a Mac or an iPhone or something. I've seen iPhones with a piece of duct tape over the little Apple symbol on the back. I'm like, it looks ugly as hell, but
Yeah, there was a sci-fi TV show, sci-fi channel. I forget what it was called. All their phones happened to be like first and second generation iPod Touches.
It was the one where they traveled back in time, where they were trying to change the future or something like that. I can't remember.
No, it was Sanctuary.
That's it. That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
They didn't travel back in time.
Sure, that was it?
Not in Sanctuary. They had a lot of flashbacks to back in time.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. But they came back from the future. One lady was like, it wasn't her fault, but she meets the guy that invents the time travel in the future as a younger guy.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't really travel in time.
Well, they
just
did
happened to be
at
really
the very
old.
first. No. At the really first episode, they did. Yeah. But after that, they had a bunch of prisoners they had to go find, and that's what she was doing. She was trying to find all these prisoners. And
all right, well, enough to talk about TV, but
what about movies?
I like the comment Londo's Hair mentions about the Quadra 700 in Jurassic Park. I remember that. That was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's a lot of Macs in that, and a lot of QuickTime zoom-ins and things. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
all the live video feeds for QuickTime.
The reason that the topic came up when we were discussing this a few weeks ago is my wife and I were looking for a show to watch while we're having dinner. And we've seen pretty much everything. I got like 16 terabytes of Plex. We've seen it all. So we needed something old that we had since forgotten or something new. Well, there is nothing new that's worth watching. So we decided, we haven't seen Chuck in a while. You guys know Chuck?
Nope, never seen it.
Yeah, Chuck.
Okay, well, I can't explain it, but you need to watch it. It's funny. So the guy has a computer, which is a G5. He gets robbed by a ninja. They start tossing the G5 around. He's a nerd, so the Mac is his life. And at some point, they drop the computer. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, they were tossing it around, so it was an empty frame.
It's a hefty toss.
Yeah,
no kidding.
And
they were buff, right?
It falls on the floor. The side panel falls off. That doesn't happen. And the hard drives fall out. But not just hard drives. No, the cover is off. You can see the platters to make it look more dramatic and stuff. And I just lost it. It's like, there's no way. There's no way. So I started ranting to you guys, and that's how it became a topic.
See, guys, it's amazing how we find our topics. We just start yakking about this stuff, and it.
Well, I can think of a movie that one animated movie. What is it? Coco.
Yeah.
And they're in the death registry room or whatever. I've never seen the movie, but I saw the
Oh yeah, they got an
article on it.
SE. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got like an SE sitting there, and they're entering stuff in it, and then someone throws it or
Yeah,
something.
she from what I recall in the movie, she's trying to look up something,
Yeah.
and it's not displaying what she wants, and she calls it a devil box, and she hits it.
Yeah.
I think we could spin a whole other conversation about unrealistic portrays of computers in television and movies.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
the one
okay.
show that they frequently get rights or got rights from a technical standpoint was Mr. Robot, but there were no Macs in there. It was one of the few shows that got it right.
Well, here's a. I just pulled up a website. I'll post a link in here in the chat here, but it's got a bunch of list of films. It's 183 films listed here with Macs in it. And Taken. I didn't know that. Apple Cinema Display was in Taken.
There's a question from Brock. Can smart status failed be false? In disk utility, in my experience, yes. I've got a hard drive that from my 1,1 Mac Pro that gave a failed. It wouldn't let you format it or do anything to it. The only thing you gotta do is do a clean format of the hard drive in a external case, so it can't read the smart, and it resets the smart, and that should work again. The thing is, if you're getting that error message, you definitely need to back it up because there's still a good chance that it is indeed failing and it's not just a false positive. But it could be a false positive. My drive's still running fine though. But yeah.
I didn't know this. I'm looking at some of these movies. Everybody knows what the Truman Show is, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, they were using System 7 in the Truman Show. There's actual screenshots of the screen of System 7 showing up.
I remember always spotting peripherals. I think it was the second Austin Powers movie where they go back in time or something. And like by the time machine, there's an Apple Pro keyboard, or maybe it's one of the ones with the black keycaps that ship with the iMacs. But it was like one of those. I'm like, oh, that keyboard's familiar.
They even had an Apple Lisa in The Simpsons for Lisa.
Oh,
That makes sense.
I didn't catch that one.
In Office Space, they had some weird UI. It looked like Macintosh, but I had a C prompt and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, considering Classic was very themable, I mean, it could have been a classic operating system.
I remember them on the DVD. There's an extra about that, and they actually said that in order for them to portray an office environment that looked familiar to everyone, they actually, I don't know how, but they made a mock-up of a system that had elements from both PCs and Macs, which is sort of why it looks that way. I think it was on the DVD or a website or somewhere, but I thought that was very interesting that they went to the lengths to do that.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see House of Cards on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You ever notice that they all had iMacs? The government people had iMacs, which I find ridiculous because the government does not use Macintoshes at all.
No, in fact, they're still using XP.
Well, no. They're using Windows 10, actually. But
there's still some military systems that use XP.
Might be some military system, but most of the government offices and stuff are using PCs. They use Dells. I know. I used to be in one of those government offices. And Dell is their main supplier of PCs. But in the House of Cards, the reason why I mention that because what's his name, Kevin Spacey, had a 27-inch Mac on his desk as president. So I'm like, why do you have a Mac? I mean, that's
it's always interesting, like seeing things like that. I remember that show Dexter on Showtime. He had he was either a MacBook or a PowerBook, but at the time, maybe it was just when they filmed, or maybe it was easier to mock this up. The Mac OS 10 version, I believe, on his machine was like Jaguar or Panther. It was like so dated, when they showed it. just by some of the visual cues of the windows and stuff, it was easier to tell. I thought that was funny.
Mike just mentioned this in the chat there. Star Trek 4, the fastest Mac Plus ever, where Scotty's telling the Mac to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, computer. He
holds
pulls
up the
the mouse
mouse.
up.
Hello,
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Just
That's
use the keyboard. How quaint.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm like, oh, so he could type fast when they don't have keyboards in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of
It's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah. Also, Sybil said something about The Simpsons, but there was an episode where they actually made fun of the Newton, and its
Beat up
tendency
Martha.
it said beat up Martin, and instead it said eat up Martha or something like
And he
that.
throws
and
the Newton.
throws it at Martin
Yeah.
because it doesn't recognize the handwriting. That's kind of a little
That's
trivia
the
thing
one
there.
thing that really bugs me about YouTube episodes that say The Simpsons predicted the future, and they say they predicted autocorrect on iPhones. No, they didn't. They were making fun of the freaking Newton.
People don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Another Mac Groening show that has a lot of Apple-related things in there is Futurama.
Well, it's the same people that make Simpsons,
there's one episode where there's like a box of blank robots and the box is Mac formatted, or there's a bunch of computers that are obviously Macs, so it's pretty funny.
In fact, American Dad had an episode where they got stuck in a Mac playing Oregon Trail. They got sucked into a Mac. The alien dude, Roger, decided to put them in the computer so he could keep them forever. And they kept dying in Oregon Trail because, everybody's played Oregon Trail and they've always died many, many times.
Oh, yeah, there's another comment from Londo's Hair here. Yeah, Seinfeld, they had a bunch of Macs. And every season every other season, they had a different one. There was like there was a TAM, there was a Compact Mac, there was a Duodoc.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always interesting.
I heard somewhere I think it was Seinfeld's personal computer, but I'm not totally sure. It'd be funny if it was.
Might have been cheaper than buying one and putting it on
Probably.
All right, guys. I think we probably beat this one into the ground. What do you guys think?
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, what does he have there? Let's
It's a Duodoc.
Minute dock.
Very nice.
That's very, very nice.
A what?
2,300.
Wow.
Oh, that's the good one.
Yeah.
And Mike's probably drooling right now. All right, guys, we're going to swap to the next topic here. Target, yeah. Apple accessories. Which ones do we miss and want back?
The docks.
Allow me. I want iPod Hi-Fi back.
The iPod what?
Hi-Fi.
Cricket.
Yep, exactly. And I'll put a link in the chat.
It was really cool. I wanted one when they were new, but even today they're still too expensive. And they only charge in FireWire.
I just find it's hilarious that how many D-cell batteries did you need to charge it?
I remember the power.
Yeah, I remember there was like a photo of it on the beach or something.
Yeah, right.
It's who's gonna drag this pure white speaker with black girls to the beach to get sand in every crevice of it?
You laugh, but now if you go to a Starbucks, you see nothing but Apple logos. So.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, I think a lot of people just buy Apple. To be honest with you, they buy them because it's Apple, and I know that
status thing.
It's a status thing, yeah. I mean, especially when you buy a laptop that costs minimum about $1,600. You want to basically treat that thing right because hell, if I buy something for $1,600, I mean. That's what I paid for my MacBook Pro, and I actually put a skin on the top and bottom just to keep it from getting scratches in it. Yeah. It'll peel off real easy, but
I don't know. I didn't pay for my MacBook, and I baby that thing.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good
definitely would
response.
love to have MagSafe back. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Bingo.
No.
MagSafe.
That was the missing features. We covered that.
No. MagSafe is not an accessory. We covered this.
Yes, I
But
agree.
it's a requirement. It's not an accessory. We need to have it required back. I'm sorry, but MagSafe was the best thing that Apple ever made, and they need to bring that back. Because I have a MacBook Pro now, the 2017 with the USB-C, and it sucks.
I agree, but it's not an accessory.
Yeah, it's not. iPod socks. Now that's an accessory. Come on.
Yes.
My wife had one of those actually.
iPod socks? Is that what you
Yeah, they
say?
actually made a sock.
You never
I,
see the
I,
iPod
I
sock?
have them in the box somewhere. They're just basically multicolored sleeves that you could shove an iPod in. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
but they're very
That
adorable.
would be one heavy sock.
Well,
No,
it's meant for an iPod.
It's
like
a
the
little
Nano
small
or the
sock. It's
Shuffle
not.
or
Yeah,
whatever
it's
the
a
hell.
Nano. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say like a Nano or something, but
Yeah. It's I don't know what the heck they were thinking. It's not going to protect it while you're using it, and it's
So blind PC guy goes, why did they get rid of the chime? Yes.
Yeah, we talked about that in the
That's
previous
not-
episode.
Yeah, my newest two computers do not have the chime, and I wish it did. But I think we need to blame either Tim Cook or Johnny Ives for that one.
if it doesn't chime, it's not a Mac.
Yep. Here's
Yeah, 'cause
another thing I would like to see back: the compact wired aluminum keyboard.
That's what I have.
How about
right here.
the full size?
No,
The
compact
full
is
size is
better.
boring.
Full size with the number pad and full, everything.
Oh, who needs numbers?
I do. I use it all the time, and I have the
You need
USB
real
ports.
keyboards. The hell with that
And
crap.
and it's wired. See, wired. Why do we have to go to these freaking wireless keyboards all of a sudden?
Or the wireless mouse that you have to charge on the bottom of.
I've got one of those too, as a matter of fact. See,
Because
Ridiculous.
my cats like to knock my keyboard off my desk. It's better if I have a wireless one.
Yeah.
Then they don't rip the wires out, and I don't have to kill them.
well, to be honest with you, I've had issues with my 2012 and the wireless keyboard that came with it because every so often it forgets that there's a keyboard there.
Oh, mine does that too. I just have to turn it off and turn it back on.
No. It comes up and it says, "Hey, you need to hit the key next to the shift key." So I do that, and it says, "We can't recognize this keyboard," but yet it still works. So quality control Apple, I guess.
Yeah.
My Pro did that the other day when I booted it up, and I couldn't figure out what was going on because I logged into it perfectly with my Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah.
Here, it was because I have a Logitech unifying receiver on my Mac. The only thing I really use is the mouse, but I still have the keyboard hooked up to it. It wanted to know what the keyboard was, even though the keyboard wasn't turned on. So I had to dig the keyboard out, turn it on, hit the two buttons, and now it's happy.
By the way, Daniel hit a good one. The external eyesight.
Yeah.
I would love to have that back. Updated to 1080p, much better sensors, so you don't need eyeglasses to make it work. And I would love that.
Yeah, I really like mine. My original one.
Because you have a better focal length and probably have a lot better picture than that little bitty hole that they stick up there now.
Oh, the best part of that was the dual microphones that are in that thing.
Oh, the microphone was superb.
Yeah, and all powered by one FireWire cable. That was great. I remember. Whoa, someone's loud. I remember using someone's using it with my PowerBook, just one FireWire cable. They had a cool accessory for that. It was a FireWire cable that was stiff enough that would support the eyesight, and you could curl it around and sort of act as a stand with it.
Yeah, and I got the whole kit with the ring lights that you could put on there and all that stuff too. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, Nick hit it before I could say it. I missed the puck.
The puck mouse.
I want my puck back.
Well, you have a couple of pucks, don't you?
Yeah, there's no reason to bring it back.
I want a new updated version in different colors, a special edition or something.
So you like to have it where your hand just gets cramped up from using the thing, huh?
No, that only happens when an idiot uses a puck. If you use
so I guess I'm an idiot then, huh?
You're talking about the puck mouse, really, Jay?
Of course.
It's a crap mouse.
What's your accessory that you want to bring back?
For me or who?
You.
Oh, that's a good one. Really, I'd say the iPod Classic, only updated with SD and possibly a touchscreen, but nah, not really. Just the
It's more of a
classic
peripheral, but
click
we'll
wheel.
accept it.
The classic click wheel would be perfect.
Well, here's another one that I wish they would actually. They just stopped making is the airports.
That's
Okay,
the other one.
because to be honest with you, I got a new one, and that one is a whole lot better than it's a new used one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a whole lot better than the older airport I had. But it's also better than any of the. I got a Linksys router here too that it's horrible as far as hooking it up and everything. The airports just work with the Mac.
For most better or worse, they usually did, but I really towards the end of their life when they just like stopped supporting half of the models using an older app, and then you could use that app on a modern Mac OS. They weren't the best in updating, keeping those updates available to actually manage them. So I could see why they got out of it, but like you said, the newer ones are better than the older ones.
Yeah,
What about
I'd love to see a tri-band, at least wireless AC with a USB 3 on the back of it.
what about the cinema display?
Well, I think those are coming back technically, so
I
You
don't
don't
miss
know.
the Apple display.
Yeah,
I don't miss the
know.
display because they look pretty, but they've always, from a design perspective, like as a designer, not that I am one, but I've worked with enough to know, they've never been good when it comes to color accuracy. They've never been great when it comes to viewing angle or contrast.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, they're
I wouldn't
basically
say that with the new Retina displays because, like, my 27-inch is pretty darn good display.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say this, that the display technology now is probably better suited for them to release a expensive display. But yes, they had issues initially with LG's display, and there was some recalls and firmware updates and all this nonsense. But honestly, I think if Apple's partnering with a company to release a display that's 100% Mac compatible, you'll probably see a cheaper display and more updates rather than if it came from Apple and you're paying the Apple tax just because it has an Apple sticker on it. I mean, a display is a display. If it has the drivers in there for speakers or webcam or whatever you're shoving in there, and it's recognized by the Mac OS, I don't care if it's Apple or anybody else. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
Yeah.
I know. I use Asus, however you say it, two screens that have an average lifespan of 2 years. After 2 years, all you see is white. Like the contrast is they just wear out that fast. Every 2 years, I got to replace them. But they're $50 a pop. So
Oh, $50. I mean, for 2 years of use is not bad. But
yeah. So I just get a new screen, and after 2 years, they don't sell them on Amazon anymore. So I go on eBay and I pick up 5 for $20, and I can last a few more years. So I don't need. It would be nice to have a design that fits my tower, but I'm indifferent about it.
yeah. Anything else in the chat there that you could think of that you wish Apple would bring back accessory wise?
Of course.
There's that one thing I tricked Greg into buying.
What?
So what?
You remember that speaker I tricked you into buying?
Yeah. Well, that's not an Apple product though.
No, but close
But
enough.
it does. It is kind of like an iSub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a video on that eventually. I just never got around to it. My girlfriend's been using it as her music speaker for the last 6 or 7 months. She uses it every day. She loves it.
Since we're still on this subject, kind of, what Apple product or accessories do you wish Apple would get rid of?
AirPods.
Yeah,
AirPods.
that was on my
Yeah.
top of my list right there.
Yeah. AirPods. I don't even know. I've been out of the Apple loop for so long. I never visit the Apple websites. I don't visit the stores. Like, I get a rash when I smell a store near me, so I stay clear of them. I don't really know what they currently sell.
Well, pretty much the AirPods is probably the only accessory. I mean, most of the stores have third-party accessories, so it's not technically Apple. But, they have stuff in there, like different cables and stuff are not real. They have a lot of stuff in there, like battery case stuff, which Mophie battery cases are sold in the Apple store.
Right.
There's a lot of third-party cases also sold in the Apple Store now. But as far as I can think of, yeah, the AirPod would be not Air, not well, the AirPod plus the HomePod should be gone too.
Well, I
Yeah.
think if
Well,
they
there were a
work
few
on the
guys in the
HomePod.
chat. We got Londo's Hair, James, and Dan all talking about speakers, and I wouldn't mind a nice set of Apple speakers on my desk, but I got the sound sticks, and I really
Dude,
don't think Apple can do better than the sound sticks when
I've
it comes
got a
to
pair
design.
of Bose speakers on my G5, and I don't think Apple could do better than
Well,
those.
it's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, how Christian talked me into that speaker. It's a Harman Kardon speaker. You know, Apple used to do all those stupid designs with Harman Kardon that were awesome and sounded great, and they need to do that again.
Oh,
Because that basically is an Apple design. It's just it was updated, and Harman Kardon sells it now.
guys, Jake has a very interesting one, and Blind PC Guy is Jake for the people in the chat. It's not really an accessory, but I would love it if Apple brings back the physical install media for Macs.
Yeah,
They
at
for a
least on
That
the
while
would be
USB
nice.
key.
for a while they used to have. I think they had a program for a while where you would buy an Apple branded USB stick that was
Yeah,
yep,
very
that was
I
cool
had
slim.
on the
one.
MacBook
Yeah,
I
Air.
had one of those. It's
Yeah.
Snow Leopard. It was on
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and it was basically a little thin piece of plastic that basically it was thin enough to shove in there. It didn't, and it had the four little USB
yeah. It didn't have
strips
the
on it.
metal part on the other top.
No, it
Yeah,
didn't have the metals anything, but that thing was awesome.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean
That's
that
they,
that was
USB
very
was
very
pretty
neat.
fast too.
but I agree with that. They should bring back physical media and
Can
those
you
little.
call Can you call the intro videos in macOS 10 an accessory? Not really.
I
Right?
I
Not really.
I wish they had those again. That was nice.
Yeah, I missed them.
I mean, I
That was
understand
cool.
why they don't have the physical media. They're not selling the Mac OS anymore. It's free. I think for a while you could still purchase the physical media, the USB
Well,
rather.
plus
Yeah.
the fact is most of the Macs now they sell nowadays have internet restore, so you can restore the Mac as long as you plug in a Ethernet cable or have a Wi-Fi connection. You can restore it from the internet. I
Yeah.
mean, so to be honest with
Didn't
you,
work really great last time I tried it.
I
Oh
think
yeah,
I think putting physical media on a system or in boxes. I hate to say it, I wouldn't say it's a waste of money because the amount you pay for some of these
Well, how
computers.
am I supposed to collect them? I got all these boxes and I can't finish it because they stopped selling it.
eBay.
Exactly. What was it? OSX Lion or Mountain Lion, I think, was the last. No, actually, Mountain Lion didn't have physical media. I
Yeah,
think,
was the
but it
last
was the
one.
last one they sold.
yeah.
You can still buy Snow Leopard and up.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Well,
why
you
you can't
can.
It's why you can't legally download it unless you already own it.
yeah. That's a whole other issue.
Hmm.
Well, I legally owned all because Snow Leopard was actually my first Mac that I bought. I had Snow Leopard on. That was my first Mac OS that I used.
Noob.
Yes, I'm a noob.
Well, technically, the first OS I used was, I think, Leopard on my iMac G4.
Noob. So that's only a year
Hey, I
behind
beat you,
me.
GT. And then I went backwards and put Tiger on my iMac to do Classic.
All right, guys, let's move this along a little bit. We still got a lot of more stuff to get to, and we're already an hour into it. So
Oh, yeah.
let's get on to our next topic here. iOS 12 jailbreak. Do people still want jailbreak? We're going to throw this over to Greg since he's the resident expert on jailbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say resident expert, but I was a Cydia developer from around, when was it? Late 2010 through about 2015 before I finally gave up. The whole point of jailbreaking back in the day was just to add features to iPhones that they didn't have before, do customizations and stuff like that. Like I developed iOverclock to make the throttling when it was on the battery power to speed up the system. But in today's world, I haven't. I have not had one jailbroken device since iOS 9.33, I think. That was the last one. It was my iPad, because at that point I realized, since at least around iOS 8, most of the jailbreak tweaks that made iPhones really usable were actually on iOS by then, and I just didn't see much of a point. And basically, the point of this topic, is it still a viable thing? Does it still really, is it worth jailbreaking iOS 12? And is jailbreaking dead or not? I wouldn't say it's really dead. There's still a very vibrant community out there for it.
Yeah.
The whole point of jailbreaking now is really because Apple's even removed most of the lockdowns. You can download apps and stuff off the internet and stuff and install it directly to your phone. So you don't need to be jailbroken to do that, as long as the certificate works. So it's a hard topic.
I think, I mean, I'll just speak a little bit about my experience with jailbreaking. And the first time I ever used it, and I bought an app from there for a few dollars, was because at the time you could not use FaceTime on a cellular network. And I think this was back when I had an iPhone 4.
Yeah, and 4 was the first one that came with it, yeah.
That is exactly why I jailbroke. That's the only time I've ever done it.
So I jailbroke my iPhone, and I downloaded this tweak that would, just modify the cellular profile or whatever for the phone to think it's on Wi-Fi. Yeah. And it did work. I mean, obviously it was not the fastest speed. It was only 4G, I believe, at the time, not even LTE, or maybe early days. But I mean, it did work, and I did get my $3 or whatever use out of it. I do have an iPad original that is jailbroken because it's too slow to do anything with, and there were some applications and such on there that I had to install through weird methods to get it to work. I think there's still maybe a need for that, especially how locked down Apple is, unfortunately, with their software. I mean, I would, not along the same lines. I mean, pretty much along the same lines. I think a lot of people are jailbreaking their devices to get back functionality that maybe has been removed from iOS update or something like that. And since you can't easily reverse an iOS update at all because the package is not signed, people resort to jailbreaking. And I hope it's still out there because there's a lot of viable, reasons to do so, especially for archival purposes of old software and things like that.
Well, I'm going to tell you my jailbreaking experience. First time I ever did it was on the 3G. And that was because, and the reason why I jailbroke is because I wanted something other than a black background on my icons. Because I don't know if you remember the 3G, and I think the 3GS started coming with, I think it didn't have it either. It was the 4 actually.
3GS was the first one with the
was the first one. Okay, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was with wallpaper. But I wanted also not only just regular wallpaper, but live wallpaper. It was the first time you could actually have moving wallpaper.
GT, there's a possibility you might have used one of my themes.
I probably did. I mean, I downloaded a buttload of themes. I mean, when I was on Cydia there.
One of his malwares.
Well, actually, one of my first themes, I accidentally broke probably 1,000 phones.
Oops.
Yeah, before they took it down. It was one of my very first things I ever did. Oops.
Why would you admit to that now?
Well, because they took it down, and then I issued an apology on a news site that I had done an interview on. That news site doesn't exist anymore. I think it was called iEnthusiast.
You took that down too?
You're fine.
Yeah, you're jogging my memory. I think actually my first jailbreaking experience was on the iPhone 3G, and I used an application that would allow me to record video, be at lower resolution and quality than the 3GS could. But yeah, I remember doing that because that was a novelty.
Well, there's a lot of developers out there that are not going through the official channels, and I've jailbroken. The only time I've actually done the jailbreak, like I said, was to get FaceTime over 4G, which was awesome. It worked really well for me. But I've always kept up with what developers were doing, the apps they were creating, and there was some really cool stuff in there, and there still is today. Like, I would love to get an app, and iStat used to have one, an app on your phone that lets you manage and enable or disable services on your Mac OS X servers. They don't have it anymore, but there's still jailbroken app versions out there that do it. So I think Apple is not to go off topic, but I think they're the walled garden. The wall is becoming so high that eventually I might have to go back to jailbreaking again to do what I want to do with my $1,000 cell phone.
Well,
I agree with that.
especially since they're basically making it impossible to use a bunch. I mean, yes, they're adding a lot of functionality that jailbreaking people jailbroke to get, but again, there's also taking away a lot of stuff for developers to actually use, so they could tie into the APIs and stuff. You know, Apple is very strict on what APIs you can use and what you can't use, and that's, I think, what's going to be still helping the jailbreak community, because guess what? They don't have to deal with Apple's rules as far as using APIs.
Yeah, remember there was a famous case of application that was a camera application. Forget the name of it exactly, but they were the first to have a hidden feature where if you push the volume up button on your phone, it would snap a photo. And that was a big deal because you had a physical button, and then they tied that into the headset as well. And that was a hidden feature. Apple discovered it. They took it off the store. And a few months later, Apple had that as their feature.
Yeah. Most people would not believe how many of the features we got today are blatantly stolen from developers that thought of it first.
It's kind of reminiscent almost of the early days of System 7, where a lot of the hacks to, like Windows Shade and things like that were eventually incorporated into the OS, except at the time, Apple bought those companies in order to adopt most of those features.
Yeah, and they didn't
now
buy
they got
these
enough
companies.
money to steal it and win the lawsuit anyway. They're like,
Exactly.
we'll settle
Apple
for $100
lawyers.
million. That's just pocket change for us. There's one app in particular on the Mac and this developer has been fighting for years to get on the phone. It's called Flux. It adjusts, it filters out the blue from your display based on the time and geographic location you set. So, it's a really cool app. I'll link to it in the description later. And they wanted to get on the phone so that when people go to bed and they're reading a book, an e-book or whatever, they're not bombarded with all this blue light keeping them awake. And Apple said no. And lo and behold, now we got night shift,
Yep.
Yeah, that became a very popular jailbreak tweak back in the day to use Flux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised that Apple hasn't come up with or had a lot of lawsuits from these developers. But like you said, they have tons of money to throw at lawyers, whereas these little small developers have nothing.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure they worked some kind of thing into their 500-page thing you sign when you become a developer on the App Store that kind of sneaks it in there, like, hey, whatever you upload belongs to us or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting back to the topic. I don't know if it's really going to die, or if it's dying, or if it's dead. It's not really dead.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's going to come back, especially because back in the day, if you had an iOS device that had a feature that yours didn't, you could just change a little plist file and enable that feature.
Yeah.
And then Apple got smart to that and changed all that, but people released hacks to just add it in through downloading and installing it and stuff, even from Apple servers. I'd like to be able to play around with my 6S one day and actually be able to do the functions that the tins have, swipe up and all that stuff, just to see what it's like. because I remember back when the 5 and 5S screen size was out. You know how you can do the tap to bring the screen down like
That's
that?
for the 6. Yeah, that's what they started.
Okay.
Well, if you take a Sharpie, at least you can have the notch tonight.
Yeah, you're funny. But yeah, you know how you can just tap the home button and bring the icons down.
Well, yeah, because what happens if your home button breaks?
Yeah, but I'm getting to a point here, GT, that for my 5S, when the jailbreak, when I was still really jailbreaking, I actually downloaded a hack that enabled you to tap the home button to bring down your icons, even though I didn't need it. You know, if I think if jailbreaking really comes back, it's going to be for the older devices that people just want more features on. Like my 3GS, I had FaceTime on for a while, and it worked. Other than the fact that it didn't have a FaceTime camera,
you had to turn it around,
or point yourself at a mirror to use it. But it worked, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the difficulty is the software. Of course, software is always going to try and be more secure because of Apple and this and that. But especially the older stuff, I think there will always be a small community that makes it possible. And hey, I'm all for jailbreaking even on newer devices. But
by the way, Steve,
as we saw with security, you know,
mentioning your iPad, iOverclock 2 is still on Cydia, as far as I know.
Well,
you might want to download it and try it out. It might speed up your iPad some.
Yeah, I really neglect it. It just sits in its case. I use it once in a while for an old game or two, but even then
it will speed it up, man.
Well, we'll see about that. If the cat's on fire, I blame you.
No, that's Jay that does that.
Steve, you mentioned the magic word, community. I mean, Apple has a lot of employees. Some of them are really smart, but you're never going to outsmart a whole community that's trying to accomplish something that you're trying to block. You know?
Yeah.
I have no desire to jailbreak, but I hope it sticks around because I like to have options.
Exactly.
Well, it's the cat and mouse game there. I mean, pretty much, you know, when they come out with a jailbreak, you know that those Apple engineers and developers at Apple are on top of it and automatically already starting to get rid of that particular jailbreak because they're already downloading the jailbreak themselves. You know they are.
I was jailbroken from what was it? iPhone OS 13.1.2 with Black Rain all the way through, I think, the Ty G jailbreak of 9.3.3.
But see, the scary thing, though, that I've seen lately in the jailbreak community is a lot of these are coming out of China now, which
the Tai G one scared the hell out of me.
Scary because you don't know what you're getting into there.
Well, you don't really know what you're getting into with some of these other jailbreaks too. I mean, I don't care where a person is. If you release software that is supposed to unlock something of my phone, I'm suspicious of it, but that's the risk you take.
Mm-hmm.
And if your phone starts getting real warm, it's calling back to somewhere.
Yep. Hey, Christian, what are your views on jailbreaking in general?
Last time I used it, it wasn't even an Apple device, so...
All right, guys, we're going to go to our next topic here. Troubleshooting pitfalls. What do experienced troubleshooters still often mess up? Jay, you're the biggest troubleshooter we've gotten here, so why don't you start this off?
My biggest thing is overthinking it. And I do it in the Facebook groups all the time. I try to help out. It's like, oh, my Mac won't power up. It's like, oh, pull out the board, check this with a multimeter. And
did then, you check to see if it was plugged in?
After all that, it's like, wait, did you plug it in? I skipped way too many steps, and I jumped right.
Do you actually have power coming to the outlet?
Yeah, that's my biggest one. And assuming that I'm talking to someone that thinks like me, well, they absolutely don't in most cases. So there's a lot of miscommunication before we get to a place where, like, oh, now we're on the same page.
Trust me, when I'm trying to troubleshoot my wife's computer over the phone to her, okay, it's almost like I want to just pull all my hair out because it's like I'm trying to explain to her what she needs to do, and then she's asking me, well, I don't know where that is. I'm like, go here, click on this. So normally what I do is wait till I get home. I will fix it.
And one of the pitfalls I keep falling into is, like Jay said, overthinking it. But one of the other things that I always run into is something that was maybe never working, but someone says, "Oh, I can't get this to work," and then you find out, well, it never worked. They were just guessing that maybe it could work that way.
Yeah.
And, you just have to, I find just the more questions you ask before you actually try and troubleshoot, even if they're silly questions like, is it plugged in? Did it ever do this before? Has it worked last time? You did this. Those sometimes help. I was just helping a relative who thought that their cable modem needed to be replaced because whenever they went to the internet on their laptop, once in a while, it would say your modem is not activated. Turns out they had once years ago connected to a neighbor's Wi-Fi router that is still probably plugged in but is no longer activated. So every once in a while, their MacBook would decide to connect to that one, and all of a sudden their internet wouldn't work. And they thought they were wired into their modem. Well, it turns out that Ethernet wire wasn't actually going anywhere. So, but it's silly to us. But if you just use a computer for email and make assumptions of things, you get easily confused. So I went into the Wi-Fi settings, had them remove that as a known network, and then they were okay. But that was an hour of my life.
And we all did it a few weeks ago. I don't think it was with Michael Manna, but. I don't know. We had a guest come on to the stream. They're like, "Oh, do you have a phone with the latest OS?" Yes. Okay, and we didn't ask what kind of phone you got because some of them can only do FaceTime audio in the group. Mm-hmm. What do you think the latest OS is? Because you might be wrong. And it turned out we were wrong on all of it. The phone was too old. The OS was like the latest version of iOS 11, and it was not going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why we test a week or so before we do these things now, because we want to make sure. Speaking of that,
unless Apple pulls the servers down.
Yeah, if you guys notice, we didn't even mention this at the beginning. We're actually back on FaceTime, group FaceTime, because it's back up and running. And last week we had an issue with one person didn't update their phone, so that's the reason why we were actually on Skype. But we're going to continue with this, but we are getting off topic a little bit, but we are going to be experimenting with a new service. Hopefully it might work a little bit better and we won't be floating around.
Jake, a.k.a. Blind Computer Guy, to thank you. Thank you, Jake.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Computer Clan's on. Hi, Ken.
Yeah, he noticed we were doing FaceTime. Hey, Ken. How's it going?
How you doing, Ken? So yeah, we're thinking about going to the different service versus group FaceTime, because I know a lot of you guys out there don't like the little floating windows all over the place. So although it's a lot easier for me because it brings the person out front that I don't have to manually click on like I did on Skype. Skype was a pain in the butt to use.
Right.
And just like group FaceTime, you can only display 4 at a time on the main screen. And so you couldn't display more than 4. Well, the new system that we're thinking about trying to go to will be displaying more than 4. We tested out last night and we had 6 on the screen at one time, and they're not floating around. So that's a plus.
Yeah, I think whatever works for us is good.
However, we cannot move anybody around on the screen. But I'm going to play around because blind PC guy actually was showing me, and I was actually watching him on OBS, but I think I could do it on Wirecast. So we're going to try to do that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome.
But that's some troubleshooting that we're doing later after the show here. So
yeah, the things we do for you people, it's amazing, man.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what Mike has to say, because it might not necessarily be computer troubleshooting, but car troubleshooting, which probably has the same pitfalls.
I don't know. Yep. Sometimes I'd rather work on a computer than a car.
Yeah, but
computers are less complicated than cars nowadays.
Well, cars nowadays are mostly computers.
Well, true.
Yeah, I was working on what was I working on? I was working on a Volvo the other day. They had 19 individual computers in it.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, there was one in like each door just to control the windows and the door locks and all that. Oh my god, it was insane.
That's a little taste of the new Mac Pro modular.
Oh.
You just get a whole bunch of computers slapped together.
That's why, truthfully, I like working on computers more than I like working on cars anymore. I don't know. Man, I can't. I don't even know what to start.
All right, guys, we're gonna.
I mean, well, sorry. I tend to agree with Jay. It's like he's right. It's the same thing as working on cars. Always go for the simple thing first.
Yeah.
People, and I run into this in both industries, and people always seem to say, "Oh my gosh, my motherboard's fried," when really it's just that something wasn't plugged in right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like,
one of the things I live by is the KISS standard, and everybody should know KISS.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, that sounds really high and mighty, but who forgot to update their iMac to the latest OS version 5 minutes before the stream?
Yeah.
And yet we still didn't use it that day.
Yeah.
And we didn't use it,
It
so
was a bad day for Mac Yak.
And when in doubt, ask people, because you never know. You may assume something works one way, but when you assume, they can ask that of me and you. So there you go.
Speaking of troubleshooting, because last night I used target display mode on my old Mac, and for some reason the new beta of Mac OS 10.14.4, I think is what they're on now. For some reason it broke the target display mode, so I could not get it to work, and I was like, "Oh, I'm stumbling." So I actually had to revert back to regular Mac or OS Mojave on the 2012 just to get it to work. So, like I said, the things we go through for you guys.
And one of the troubleshooting steps I've been using since I laid eyes on a computer, and my wife makes fun of it. She says I always tell her to restart first, and I still go by that. Like
9 times out of 10,
whatever the problem is,
9 times out of 10.
So, by the way,
Restart is actually, I think that's the very first thing that most.
nice.
Nice.
I think the very first thing that most tech support guys tell you over the phone is, "Did you restart it?" And I'll sit there and tell them, "Yes, I restarted about 20 times. Why do you think I'm calling you?" Because,
Exactly. Usually when I talk to tech support or, for instance, my cable company, I go through, before I even tell them the problem, I go through every single troubleshooting step I went through, so they don't have to waste my time having me go through everything again.
but you still waste your time because you're telling it to a tier 1 support rep. He's going to put you through to a tier 2.
Which doesn't know anything either.
yeah. All tech support is nowadays is just people reading this. They type in the problem on their computer and it says, and just gives them a list of crap to do. There's no intelligence involved anymore.
No. That's even at the Apple or the Apple Genius also does the same thing. They have an iPad in front of them now, and they go through, and it's like a script.
Yeah. It tells them exactly. It's kind of like what our old service manuals for our computers. It gives you a flow chart of things. Well, they're basically doing the same thing. And of course, the first one is always turn it off and turn it back on.
Yep.
Well,
I forgot the name of this TV show, Office or something. I don't know. I think it was a British show where it was about tech support. The first thing he always asked when he answered the phone.
Yeah, IT crowd.
The IT crowd, yeah. Did you turn it off and on again? And it's true.
Yeah,
well, there's a old saying too. Did you check the ONOFF switch? It's a running joke, especially in I used to be a radio repairman in the Army, and one of the jokes we had is go get a can of frequency grease, stuff like that,
Every tech job I work, you have these inside jokes. I mean, everybody knows the ID10T error.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere between the chair and the keyboard.
Yeah, and one guy was unfamiliar with the ID10T error, and he thought it was hilarious. He's like, "What is ID10T?" He said, "Well, write it out. What does it look like? ID10T." Oh, idiot! I get it. So he was super happy he runs out to the Genius Bar, and he thought it was like something unknown that nobody knew. So he helps his customer, and he shouts over to the other end of the bar, "I got an ID 10T here," in front of the customers. And like, yeah, he didn't last very long in that job. But
I was going to
that was
say.
one of the pitfalls is that inside jokes, keep them inside, because
Yeah,
people
no
probably
kidding.
heard about him.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to keep these moving along here. We're going to go to our next topic here. This I don't know a lot about on because I
Yeah,
just
this
put
is
it
Yeah,
on
the
here.
I think
topic.
I put this in.
Let's rag on iTunes. Plenty to rag about. But Steve, you have a specific topic, so it's on you.
All right. So I actually heard about this from someone I used to follow on a forum, and now I follow him on Twitter. His name is Blake Patterson. You may know his username as Blake Spot, and he's on Twitter. You can look him up. He has an awesome collection of old computers and Macs and things. And I saw a tweet of his that apparently if you don't recall, back in the day when Apple re-released version 12 dot whatever of iTunes, they
Yeah.
took away all the App Store management of the of your iPhone, so you couldn't do a lot of the things like installing apps and things from iTunes. So there was a lot of backlash, especially from businesses. So what Apple did was they released a different version of iTunes just for businesses, and they said it was unsupported and blah blah blah, but it retained the App Store functionality. Well, apparently that doesn't work in Mojave. And if you do look at the Apple support page for that download, it actually says at the bottom now it doesn't work with Mojave, and it's just a problematic thing because you know a lot of the old games and things, if you synced your device to iTunes, you could play these things and download them to your device even long after they were removed from the store or the developer was no longer in business and such.
Yep.
So I find it, a little concerning because now all of a sudden this portal to download and restore stuff to your phone is, now limited at a Mac running High Sierra. And yeah, I mean, that's not too old, but, eventually that's, going to become a problem. And I just think it's just something that I didn't really realize, and then he mentioned it, so I thought that was an interesting thing to bring up. And it just seems kind of silly. Obviously, Apple doesn't want to support two versions of iTunes, but I mean, how much work would it have been to make it compatible with Mojave? I mean, it's just a bit silly in my opinion.
Yeah, and that ties back in with the jailbreak we were talking about before. All this kind of stuff, and it's not just that. It's 100 little things that make me, after the show ends, make me want to wipe my Mac, put 10.6 on it, and live happily ever after with stuff that just worked.
Still
And
does. I did it to mine.
yeah, you're running 10.6?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I rolled back from High Sierra since it wiped my partition map with the latest update.
Oh,
Yes, but that was fun.
yeah. So I think this is, not something we have to talk about too much, but I just thought that was something interesting to note that sort of this alternative thing that Apple made available is dead only a little bit later.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it when you told me about this topic coming up, because I use it once every few months. But updating all the apps on my phone, I wait until I got like a badge of 400, and then I start
Same
updating.
here.
And I used
You
to
have
do that
400
my
apps
Mac.
on your phone?
Probably.
Yeah, I got a lot.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, with automatic updates, I ran into an issue that's kind of related to this, kind of not, but I'll say it anyway. But I ran into an issue where an app updated, and the update killed the functionality of the app. Basically, it was dead on the device, and you can't revert back to an older version. You're stuck. So that's
Well, I don't do
not
automatic
good.
updates because I want to see what the update is all about.
Exactly. It wasn't on my personal device.
I
but-
always wait. I always wait. I read the reviews. If I've heard something out there about it not working, I don't install it until the next update.
Yeah, there was I think the app was Mocha VNC, basically a VNC viewer for an iOS device, so you could view a Mac. One of the updates they snuck by, they introduced a 5-minute limit that basically made your app demo, and that was it. So the free version was basically a trial, and you could close out of the app and use it again, but it made it annoying, and you can't really, you have to be careful of what you update these days. You can't go back.
Well, I agree with you, and I think anybody that does auto updates is an ID 10T.
A good way to
I agree. I totally agree. I don't have anything set to auto update.
Me neither. I do not believe in auto updates.
Especially the unsupported Macs, because when they auto update, bad things happen.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I can't turn off auto updates is my boot camp partition, because they don't let you do that.
They sort of do, but
Those other guys.
I think there's some registry hacks to fix it.
there's ways around
Not
that.
anymore. Not anymore. Those registry hacks are gone away. They
there's always clever ways.
There's always a way around.
There might be, but they've patched up a lot of the holes that people used to do to get around that.
You can't update if it's not connected to the internet.
Exactly.
That is true, but then what use is it?
You could block all the ports you want, maybe.
Yeah.
True.
To circle back, the reason I bring up how many apps I got is in that version of iTunes, I used to do all the updates because I just let my Mac crunch all the updates over Ethernet.
Yeah.
And, later that night I plug in my phone, it synchronizes all the new apps, and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed off that it's gone, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I used to use that version of iTunes to rearrange the home icons on my phone.
I did too. I used to love that. But I think one person we could thank for that, Steve Jobs. Remember when he came out and talked about, the wireless syncing with, iTunes and stuff
cord
like that?
Cutting, yeah.
Yep, cutting the cord. I mean, when he was still alive, that he came out with that.
Yeah, well, they've removed the feature after he was dead. So
I understand they did, but it was probably on its way out, to be honest with you.
I don't know if it's sped up iTunes. iTunes has always been a hog ever since video was introduced to it. So,
and I think since iCloud came out, they want you to use iCloud as a backup and everything else. But I still do backup to my iTunes as well, wirelessly, of course. It does it every night wirelessly, but All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. We're going to talk about printers, laser inkjet. So I think, Steve, you're on this one too, right?
Well, this was Rocky's topic, but Rocky had to be something
we could maybe save that for next time.
Okay, I guess we will.
More about it. And
I'd say let's save it until next time. Plus, I don't know a whole lot about printers. I'm lucky the ones I have work.
I have an Epson printer that I paid like $50 for, and it works.
Well, the idea of the topic is I want to move away from inkjet printing, and Rocky, and I think Mike as well, and they have some interesting things to say about that, but we're putting some more information together, so next week we'll be a little better prepared, and give it to you then.
Yep. Yeah, we're still collating on that one.
All right, so let's talk about the next topic. This is a rumor that we heard, a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Are we excited, or is it going to be a flop?
What's wrong with the 17 that they had?
Well, what's wrong with 13 that they got now? I mean, to be honest with you, I don't want something to be honest with you, I don't need anything that big for a laptop.
Yeah, but if I'm paying a premium price for a MacBook Pro versus a MacBook, I want a bigger screen than 13 inches. I mean, seriously.
You can always hook it to an external screen.
Well, speaking of 17, I mean, they're pretty big. This is going to be an unboxing video I'm doing tonight, probably. I think the perfect size for a MacBook in general, portability-wise, is the 13, and the 15's great for, editing. 17, even though it's really awesome, and it's great screen size, that's the reason why I got that. But it's really big, and it's more of a stationary kind of setup there. Because I've got a 17-inch PowerBook. I'll tell you what, you can. It's a pain to carry.
I think 16 might be a sweet spot, and I'll just say my opinion quickly. Why? If you look at like the 2015 MacBook Pro, which is one I have at my office, the bezel around the screen is pretty thick. Now, with some of the newer laptops, those bezels are getting smaller and smaller. I could totally foresee a 16-inch laptop that's not too much bigger than the 15-inch models if they could get that bezel thin enough around. Now, what is the advantage of that? Really, I have no idea. Maybe it's a better Retina display or made for video editors that's, I don't know, do 4K or 5K, whatever they're going to shove in there. I have no idea. But it personally is not attractive to me, but I guess some people might want one.
Well, to be honest with
I think it's an issue that, and we've touched on this in previous episodes. The first thing Steve Jobs did when he got back is axe 80% of the lineup, declutter the whole thing, and start fresh. And right now, we got more Apple Watch models than we can count. We got 11-inch, 13-inch, 13-inch over different models. We got the 12-inch MacBook. And now 16-inch? They're not going to scrap any of the old stuff. They're just going to add to it.
Well, Jay, we were talking about this last night. The
Don't
iMac
forget
Pro
they're going to be obsolete
and the Mac
within a
Pro.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were going over the
They'll be
specs.
obsolete in a year.
Yeah. We were going over the specs of the two Mac Pros. Well, they have an iMac Pro and they have the Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Okay. The different specs on both of them, which they still both sell. And to be honest with you, why would you want to buy because in order to get the trash can Mac Pro up spec to at least what a iMac Pro has, you're going to spend a buttload of money, and it's not even still going to become close to what the iMac Pro can do.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's, on top of that, you still got that butterfly keyboard that you know is going to break eventually. You're going to have a heatsink that's about this thick, so it's going to throttle or overheat. You're not going to have expandability. You're not going to have upgradability. So why go through all that if you're not going to give us anything back? Because the extra space that they get, which is maybe this much, is just going to be filled with battery anyway.
Oh, I know.
Weren't there already some issues with the i9 CPU?
Well, they've already had
overheating,
throttling
downclock,
issues
and stuff like that.
Well,
the funny thing is, and this is just a little conspiracy theory for me, when the i9 came out and all these videos flooded YouTube about throttling, right? And then Apple came out with a software update for Final Cut that suddenly fixed it. Do you really think the processor is fixed, or do you think the Final Cut?
Did you also notice that the Intel Power Gadget was missing for a few days off of the download site at that same exact time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the issues of throttle, if you use third-party software like Heaven Benchmark or something like that, that thing is going to throttle its ass off.
Oh yeah,
I haven't looked into it. This is just speculation, but I think the chip is just as bad as it was when it came out.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree.
I totally agree with you too.
Well, we can't all agree because then we're done talking about it.
But like,
I totally disagree with you, Jay.
There you
go. It's totally fixed.
All right, why do you disagree? I don't know.
Exactly.
The trash can Mac Pro belongs in the trash can. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
I think we all agreed on that last night.
Yeah,
I want one.
Well, we actually did a spec comparison of what they actually currently sell on the website versus the lowest end iMac Pro, and even if you bumped up everything that could be put onto the trash can, it still would not be better than the low end iMac Pro.
And the max price is $7,000
for the trash can, and it's only $5,000 for the iMac Pro, which is still
you guys
way
don't
better.
Have credit cards?
I don't think any of us have one that has that much cleared on the credit card.
I got to put about 5 of them together to get halfway there.
Is that an offer? Can I charge one to your account then?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like Christian has some money over there.
It's probably because he has to take a second mortgage out on his house to buy one.
Yeah.
We had to sell both my kidneys.
Yeah.
All right.
So, long story short, I'm not excited about it. I'm sure it's going to be sweet, and they're going to present it like the greatest thing that was ever Well, you know for a fact that it's going to be the fastest Mac they ever built. It's going to be the thin, because that they say that with every keynote.
They say that it's the fastest ever. They say it with the iPhone. They say it with the watch. They say it with
Right.
the iPad. I mean, it doesn't matter what Apple comes out with. Johnny Ives or Phil Schiller comes out there and says, "This is the fastest thing we've ever built." Well, duh, it's
Yeah,
new.
and
It
it
should be
should be.
faster.
You're charging $5,000 for it, and it's 2 years newer than the last fastest one you had, so it should be.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it's
getting off
working.
topic there a little bit, but those keynotes, it sounds like they still use the same script from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
20
You
years
know,
ago.
Well, if
yeah.
it ain't broke,
The blue and white, you need to watch the blue and white introduction video. My God, they were talking about how fast and powerful it was. But when you think about it, it's using a G3 from over a year before in
yeah.
it. And the only thing really different, other than basically how the board was laid out, was the bus speed was a little quicker.
Yep.
Yep. So,
But people buy it, especially when someone like Steve was introducing it. You just got sucked into that vortex, and you believed
Yeah.
whatever
well,
he said.
Yeah,
the reality distortion field just
Yeah,
sucked
that
you
one.
in, you know?
exactly.
One of the things, too, I saw an article on today, as a matter of fact, the rumors on the iMac or the Mac Pro being modular. Have you guys have any?
Yeah, I
Which
think
one?
that's
The
been floating
one
around
that,
for a while.
Yeah.
yeah,
Have
the
you
one
guys had any
about it
thoughts on
Everyone
that?
being,
wanted to do modular, so it's
yeah.
nothing new.
Yeah,
Which
Oh, well,
article? The one about it being like Lego bricks?
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Even
it's so
Google went there.
stupid.
And my concerns for the Mac Pro go back long before Mac Yak, but I probably mentioned it in a few episodes that I I really hope they work it out. I fear they probably won't. So
Hopefully they get back with NVIDIA and actually make nice, you know. That would be
Yeah.
the best thing. And come back with a bigger case like, you know, the cheese grater case. I mean, that was probably the best case they ever came out with.
agreed.
And they need something like that people can actually do their own upgrades. I mean, yes, it's going to be an Apple specific motherboard or logic board because they don't use motherboard in Apple terms, but it's going to be an Apple logic board. It's going to be their own specific, you know, stuff in there, and where it only runs, you know, Mac OS unless you run specific boot camp drivers, stuff like that. But I think that's what they need to come out with, something to that effect, because it's iconic and it worked.
Well, when the day comes that they announce it, WWDC or something, I'm just going to walk away from my computer, call my wife, and say, "You watch this for me because I cannot. You let me know how it plays out because I'm." That's my last chance of having a Mac going forward. If this Mac Pro doesn't work out, once my 5.1 breaks and I can't find another one or it's not powerful enough anymore, I'm gonna have to go Macintosh.
Yeah.
So I got my future of using Mac riding on this redesign, literally. So I don't know, makes me
Yeah,
nervous
it's
just talking about it.
Well, you
we'll
got to
see what
remember.
happens.
You got to remember what's his name. Johnny Ives is in charge of this, and he's all about how it looks, not how it
Yeah.
functions. You know, that's the problem with Apple right now.
Exactly
Is
what the pros don't care about.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I want a 17-inch heavy as hell laptop. I don't care about how heavy it is.
Or
I
how
mean,
thick it
doesn't
is.
it doesn't bother me that much. I'm 6'3". I don't care that much about 17-inch laptop. I just want a serious machine that when I get to my destination, I can flip it open and it can handle whatever I throw at it.
To
Just
be
get in
honest
touch
with you, I
with it.
think putting the label on the MacBooks they have nowadays is kind
It's a
of
joke.
it's
It's
a
Super
joke. Yeah.
it's just as funny as calling the people at a Genius Bar a genius. Because
This
So you're trying to say you're
2008
not a genius because you
MacBook
used to
is
work
more
at one.
pro than the new systems when you think about it, because it's got ports in it and all this
yeah,
Express card.
I agree.
expandability.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably the last ones that came out like that. But
Yeah.
you're not going to get the newer ones today because all they are think about is thinner, thinner, thinner. I'm like, when are they going to learn that people don't really want thin? Even the phones are too damn thin. It's like, make them thicker. Then you
But
get rid of the camera
like
bump.
you, Greg. It's
Yeah.
some people like you. You keep buying them.
You do too.
No, I don't.
I have hated the camera bump since the day it was
Who has
first came out.
Who has the latest iPhone in this group right now?
Oh, we're talking about phone?
Jay.
Yeah, we were just talking
Jay?
about that. Jay.
Well, I didn't have a choice.
There's always a
No,
choice.
but when it comes to computers, thinner, lighter, unupgradable, you got the newest computers in this group, my friend.
So?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
But you know what?
Oh, yeah,
my iMac, I'm happy with it. It had a regular keyboard. It doesn't have those butterfly, keys or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So I like it a lot better.
But it has one fan that tops out at 2,700 RPM.
And it keeps it cool. Right now it's at 81. The GPU is running at 81.
Right now it does. What about when macOS 10.16 comes out?
Yeah. Well, then this is probably not going to run. It's probably not going to be a supported.
I hope it should be.
It should be, but who knows? The way Apple does stuff, it may not be.
Well, I think we could all agree that we're not really excited on anything from that point.
Exactly.
And I was looking at the Wayback Machine, and I was looking at the announcement of the Power Mac G4, and recalling how excited I was to, I wanted that machine so bad, and there's nothing on Apple's website right now that makes me go like, oh man.
Oh yeah, the U.S. government ban advertisements.
That was a good one.
It was awesome PR, man.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to Mike's Mac Shack. So, Mike, you're going to be up front and center now.
Okay, what was I talking about? I can't even remember.
The 1600 or 6100?
6100. So, yeah, Steve, do you remember when the 6100 came out?
My aunt had a Performa variant of that. I'm going to say the 6100 was 94 or 95?
Yeah, 94.
Yeah,
the very first Power Mac. Very first Power Mac that ever came out. And it was, ironically, in this jail like this, it was one of the first Macs that could come from the factory with a 486 processor in it, too. So it could even run DOS. So, not really.
Jay's face.
Yeah, not much to say except it was a pretty revolutionary machine, and it introduced us to the PowerPC line, which stayed with us up until 2005. But the original Pizza Box 6100 was it was a very interesting machine to say the least. I don't know if you've ever worked on one, but they were little, they were flat, and they were funky.
Yeah, they were very interesting because you did not have the expandability slots that most Macs had. You had one PDS slot, and a lot of manufacturers made adapters so you could actually put a regular graphics card in there.
Yep.
And I know there was, at least I have a Sonnet adapter that's a G3 upgrade card just for this machine, and it has a port that's open so you could actually put a card in there once you put the upgrade in there.
Yeah, but but the nice thing about the 6100 is it was cheap, and it kind of cemented Apple's position in the PC world as a high end, basically a high end performer, because the thing toasted every PC that was out at the time.
And what was the processor speed on that one?
They had a 60, a 66, and I think there was an 80 too.
Wow.
No, it's 60 and 66. That's all. But they also had the PC configuration, which basically had an entire PC on a card that went in the PDS slot. But that doesn't really count. So interesting Macs, interesting machines. If anybody ever finds one, I'll recommend picking one up. The nice thing is,
I got interested in this when you mentioned you were going to talk about it. I looked it up in some old magazines of the time, and looking at the benchmarks, a 6100 versus a Quadra 700 in 3D renders, like smoked it, absolutely smoked it.
That's
And
just the efficiency of the processor. That's the big difference between the PowerMate PC and the 68K.
And also, I see in that time, I see a lot of talk about upgrade cards. Were those Macs the first ones that had a lot of CPU upgrade
Well,
availabilities?
the
Uh,
PowerPC, machines I think were one of the first, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, or one of the first to have, a real slot dedicated to the processor, a direct line to the processor with the PDS slot.
Actually, the PDS slot was first introduced on the original SE in 1987.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They
Um,
had a PDS or whatever they called it.
yeah, it was called an SC PDS, or
Yeah.
later on they called it an LC PDS because it was for the pizza box machines, as we used to
But was
call them.
but was this the first desktop machine without a screen to have it? I know that
No, there was the 2CI had one.
the 2CI had a cache slot, but
Uh,
I don't know if
I
that was a
thought it had a
PDS slot.
PC. I thought it had a PDS too.
It
And
had a cache slot in Nubus, but I don't know about a
yeah,
PDS.
the Quadra 700 had one. The 2SI had one. There were a few of the higher end machines because Apple was actually thinking forward. They knew in I think 1992 that they were changing the architecture. Motorola couldn't keep providing them with the processors that they wanted to get the speed that they wanted out of the machines, which is why they went with the joint venture between Motorola, IBM, and Apple to basically, well, they basically used one of IBM's processors. The PowerPC 601 is an IBM processor. So I have an RS6000 at my job to prove it. It has a PowerPC 601 at 75 megahertz in it,
Wow.
and the thing screams so slow. Believe me, anything can catch up to it. But it served us well for 25 years, so you can't really
Well, as
complain
people
about it.
say, Macs are expensive now. I'm looking at the chart that's up there.
Oh yeah.
Starting at
That thing was
1800.
cheap. That was cheap.
Starting
Well,
at 1800 up to 2600, and that's
also,
just the 6100. The 71 and 81 went all the way up to $6,000.
Yeah,
yeah,
the
they had
6100 was the bottom of the line, but it was also aimed more at the 6100. Kind of cemented Apple's place in homes because it was the most powerful machine you could get for not a lot of money. $1,700 in 1994 really wasn't a lot of money for a computer. You
Yeah,
know,
I know that was why my aunt bought the Performa variant of it
yeah.
because it was a Power Mac, and my dad had the 7500 Power Mac he got a year or so after that. So, it's interesting. I mean, looking at some of the articles that you posted there, and I was able to look at the zoomed in versions. They were selling just the logic board of the 6100 as an upgrade to some of the earlier machines that had the same case, and
The
you'd pay
Quadra
over
6.
$1,000 just for the logic board because
Crazy.
it was a PPC upgrade. So
And which
Yeah.
OS was that thing running out of the box?
7.1.2, I believe.
I'm pretty sure
now,
we had these in
Or
school.
no, it might have been 7. I think it was 7.5 actually. Now that I think about it, hang on. No, 7.1.2. I was right.
the
Yep.
only caveat to these machines, and I think Mike, you would agree, is they have a very funky proprietary video output
Oh,
built
yes,
in.
the HDI 45.
Yeah. So you need to
45
find one of
pin
those
video port.
dongles, otherwise you're out of luck.
Yeah.
You
There's
get
a tool
10.
that tells them.
Did you ever
Yeah.
have it? Did you ever have an Audio Vision 14 display, Steve?
Yes, I did. I still have one.
Oh, do you? Oh, awesome. Those things were awesome. They had good speakers in them.
I have to replace the capacitors, and it whines like crazy when you turn it on.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately. But they were great, except for the fact they were resolution locked to 640 by 480.
Yeah. So
But
for those of you not familiar, the whole point of that funky output there was Apple had these monitors at the time, similar kind of to their cinema displays and their Thunderbolt displays, where they had audio, visual, and I/O capabilities built in. So that one port out the back, where your video plugs in with that adapter, the adapter was just so you could have normal standard Macintosh monitors plugged in. But if you got one of these Apple monitors that were multimedia focused, right on the monitor you had a microphone input, input. You'd have a set of speakers. You'd have a headphone jack. You might even have an ADB port. So that was the reason why this had an interesting connection on the back, as opposed to your standard Mac connector. And the only way to get around that, if you don't have that adapter, is to get another adapter and use the PDS slot and convert that to a graphics card slot.
If you ever run across one in a while, grab one. They're actually pretty. They're pretty quick as little machines for their age.
Oh yeah.
So I had one for a while, and I don't even remember why I replaced it. I think I replaced it with something faster, but not very expandable. They have their little quirks, but you know they were neat little machines. And the 7100 was also an awesome machine as well.
Yeah, the 7100 had NuBus slots, correct?
No, they're PC. Wait.
Or that was 7200.
No, they were PCI. I think they were PCI. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of. I think all the Power Macs came with PCI slots.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'm mixing them up because they had such similar cases to the Centris and things like that. Oh no, yeah, the 7100 had 3 7-inch NuBus slots and one PDS slot. Yeah, I think the first PCI one was the series after it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Anyway, 6100 is great machine.
I'm switching to LTE because a Spectrum truck just parked outside my door, so my internet might go poof. But my LTE inside is not great, so if I disappear, you know why.
Yep, just note for anybody who wants to do some collecting. Great machine to find. Pretty rock solid reliable, too, actually, even today.
Well, do you have one?
Unfortunately, I do not. I wish I did.
I'll give you one.
Oh, yeah? I'll take it.
It's not pretty looking, but it works.
Oh, what does Christian have there?
Ooh. I don't go for pretty. I go for function.
Is that a portable?
Oh, he's got a portable. Oh, you lucky shit.
It's a nice machine.
Now, how lucky are you? Does it actually work?
Oh, it works.
Awesome.
Nice.
Those things are flaky as can be. Beautiful machine, absolutely gorgeous machine.
This one is edition. It's not even yellowed.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, they were really nice machines when they came out. There was nothing like it.
Hey, Christa, can you show it again? You weren't on camera at the time.
Show what?
Can you show that again? You weren't on camera at the time.
Nice.
Now that is the pinnacle of computing technology right there.
And the space bar is the same color.
Oh, nice. I hit the space bar. I was trying to do it without the battery.
Wow, you must have a pretty good backup battery then.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic here, and I'm going to pull Steve up here, and it is all on him.
Okay, so I picked up something neat 11 years ago at the Trenton Computer Festival here in New Jersey, which was one of, at the time, the oldest flea markets and computer festivals. I think it still is. And they used to have a lot of people there and a lot of cool stuff. Unfortunately, that sort of dipped by the wayside. So instead of 2 football fields of old stuff to rummage through, there's now 1 conference room full. But I digress. I found this during my travels there. And this is an Apple support tools reference guide. And it's basically for, as the bottom says here, resource coordinators. And inside here is, tech sheets and stuff that you would likely want to know if you're a reseller or a coordinator for Apple and, prices and all this compatibility stuff. But one of the cool things inside of this book is they have newsletters. And so these newsletters are called Applegrams. And I'll take one out of the binder here to show it to you.
I have it up on screen if you want.
There you go. Yeah. So this is an Applegram newsletter from May 1991. It focuses on System 7. And I'm not just showing this to show off because, it is pretty cool.
Yeah, you are.
What I am doing is all the documents in this binder, as much as I can, I'm going to be scanning them in. And this one is already scanned in, and it's online. It's on my Patreon page as a public post. You don't have to pay a cent to view it. It's also on archive.org, and I'll try and paste the link in here as I'm talking. into the YouTube chat.
I thought I had the link handy, but I don't.
Yeah, no worries. I'll get it. But what's cool is this newsletter, it's meant for, as the top says, for Apple professional system consultants. So, this is really something that was designed, I guess, for, these user groups and such. And, you don't really see this stuff, really being released by Apple. It's, just press releases on their website. But what's interesting is they're hyping System 7 in this issue, and you can see an upgrade kit was $100, or a group upgrade kit was $350, or a set of 5 manuals was $250. Just the manuals? I don't know. It's pretty crazy, but it's fun looking back at this sort of stuff and just seeing the types of things that were available and the things that they were talking about in this newsletter. You could download and take a look at it yourself, but there are blurbs about increased memory for the Macintosh SE, about new configurations for the LC, about Farallon phone net adapters and logic board upgrade price reductions and things like that. This is a very interesting time capsule to look back on. And here, I got the link here. And so it's a very cool little history thing to tie and just see what Apple was doing back at the time. And I have a few of these. They're all from the early 90s. And I actually have one from 1989, which actually has the Macintosh Portable on it. That's right here. And that's also on archive.org if you just search for Apple Graham, all one word, or just go to the link that I put in the YouTube chat there. But these are pretty interesting. They're time capsules. I think they're pretty neat. And I'm going to be scanning as much as I can. If you guys ever come across any, don't hog them, share them. you should try and archive.
There'll probably be the scanned versions you're putting out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few floating around on eBay from. They show even the Lisa on there, so I know that in one form or another, these newsletters were going on for quite some time. I don't know particularly when they ended because my binder only goes up to around 1992 or 1993. I do have some Xerox versions. Here's one from August of 1990. And then later on, I don't know if they changed the name, but they're called Quick Connect. And it's sort of a similar thing where they're talking about news. This one is from April 91. So maybe this served a different purpose, but it's just very interesting to look into. And this binder has all sorts of things that might be difficult to scan, like this support resource directory, which is basically a book about different programs by Apple, training courses, user groups, and things like that, and a bunch of contacts for, businesses and such, which are probably long out of date. So yeah. I always enjoy finding this type of stuff, and this is something I've had in my collection for a while. I did try scanning them in a while back, but now I guess that I have a better scanner. Maybe things will go smoother. But yeah, just wanted to share that. I think that if it's sort of useless just sitting in my house all alone. I'd love to share it with other people, and that's how I find information about old stuff, is by looking up some old documents and things. So hopefully these will help anybody out there who wants to learn more about this stuff.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you.
Oh yeah. No problem.
That is awesome. Well, guys, we've pretty much wrapped everything up that we were supposed to talk about today, except for the printer issue, which we'll bring back next week on next Mac Yak.
Yep.
So hopefully any questions from the audience tonight before we go ahead and call it a night.
Yeah, I already said bye to the people watching because my internet went down. So.
Oh, you're on LTE?
Yeah, I'm on LTE right now.
So it did go down?
The last thing I saw on the security camera was the cable on the street. So. Yeah.
Okay. So, everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up then. But before you go, make sure you like and subscribe both YouTube and Facebook. We do have a Facebook link. We will also be hanging around on Discord a little bit later after this, doing some experimentation. So check us out on Discord too there.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully Grudy will put the link up there.
I already did.
Okay, there you go. If you're not a member, go ahead and get in there, and we'll get you set up.
Yeah, you get to see Christian drunk and all that good stuff we reserve for Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good times.
language is a little bit more colorful than what we do here.
Yeah.
Also,
It's our X-rated channel, basically. It's
I
still
wouldn't
not
say
super
it's X.
X-rated,
I
but
wouldn't say
still.
X. I would say more R-rated or PG-13.
Depending on what country you're in.
Yeah.
True. When the video's finished rendering and stuff by YouTube, just check out the description and the info and the links. I'll have everything on there. Spread the word. Tell your friends about us. The more people we get, the better this is going to grow. So we're trying to get this to grow, get more people to join us. We're still trying to get the 32-person FaceTime test. We haven't even come close to getting, I think, a little over half maybe we've gotten. So we still need
it's
people.
gotten kind of stale.
Yeah, so the link will be in the description below. But if you go to mac-yak.com, there's a link in there called the Group FaceTime Challenge. Just go there and send Jay your information, and we'll get you into the group that we have set up just for that.
Yep.
So, guys, if there's nothing else, we're going to go ahead and call this a night, and we'll see all you guys later. You guys have a good night. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for
See ya.
joining.
Have a good
Thanks.
night.